Welcome to the Div and our series on professional expectations. I'm Lieutenant Commander Alex Wood from 4th Canadian Division Public Affairs in Toronto, Ontario. As members of the profession of arms, we are held to high standards and are expected to uphold the values of the Canadian Armed Forces. Our 8 professional expectations are provided through the Canadian Armed Forces ethos, trusted to serve. Our topic today is stewardship, and joining me are Major Cpl Launder and Corporal Cpl Wallace. Major Cpl Launder joined the Canadian Armed Forces in 1989. He worked his way up through the ranks to warrant officer and then commissioned in 2020. He completed a tour in Bosnia in 1993 and again in Afghanistan in 2008. Major Launder's current role is G4 operations with the 4th Canadian Division headquarters, where he coordinates logistics domestically and into theater. Corporal Cpl Wallace is a Human Resources Administrator currently serving with the Governor General's Horse Guards. Since enrollment in 2021, Corporal Wallace has completed numerous military courses, received 2 commanding officer commendations, and most notably was the administrative non-commissioned member for Exercise Worthy Persica at the U.S. Army Maneuvering Center of Excellence in Fort Benning, Georgia. Welcome to you both.
Thanks, Alex.
Thank you for having us, sir.
My pleasure, and thank you, for taking the time out. Everybody at the division headquarters and related units is so busy these days, and all of that. It's really appreciated that you guys are able to take the time to join us today. I always like to give our guests a little bit more insight as to who we are and our story as members. So. Chris, I'll start with you. Just a few years in the forces at this point in your career. Thinking back to when you were just getting started, looking at enrolling, what was it that compelled you to start your career in the military?
I've always wanted to actually serve. I tried to join the Army when I was 15 the first time. And of course, the recruiting officer said, "No, sorry, come back next year. You're too young." I then came back again when I was 16, and he said, "No, you're still too young." So I came back a third time, and finally I was old enough to join. So it was just in me to join. My father wasn't actually in the military, although my grandparents were in the military. On both sides of my dad and my mom, so I guess it's kind of ingrained in me. We've been serving for a long time, so and it was just like a calling. That's all I can say.
And Cpl, what about yourself? I mean, just a couple years in, but I guess something must have attracted you to this life of service and joining the Army.
So I actually started the recruitment process during COVID.
Okay.
So at first, everything moved super slow. It took about a year for me to actually get enrolled into the CAF. But I just remember me wanting a challenge and me wanting something that was going to push the way I was thinking and going to push me to do more. And the recruiting ad came up, and I was like, I want to do that. And I remember it being like somebody on the Air Force, and they're standing on the wing of a plane. And the ad was like, "This could be you." And I was like, yeah, let's do it. That's a challenge. Army, here I come.
Nice. Well, I think it's really interesting what people's stories are and how they come into the military, and then also what keeps them here. So, Chris, what would you say, like in terms of the best part of the job for you? What, in your experience, what's the thing you like the most about being in the Army?
I can't actually say there's one thing. There's actually a bunch of things that keep me in the Army for a long time. I mean, certainly job security is one. Certainly the rewarding aspect of it. The fact that, I feel like I'm making a difference to the country and what we need to be doing as a country. Those are the types of things that really keep me in. Also, talking with all my fellow colleagues. I mean, We make a good friendships amongst everyone, with not just within the people I work directly with, but also with the people that I have to interact with to do my job. And you become friends with them over time. And as the years go by, you keep talking to them over and over. Oh, hey, how you doing? And after like say 10 years, you end up working with the same person again. And it really has amazing aspects that way.
And Aaliyah, you're, as I said in your intro there, a Human Resources Administrator, or HRA as the Army calls it. Why did you pick that trade? What was it about doing this particular job that brought you in?
I really enjoy talking to people, and I really enjoy structure. And that was kind of the selling point during my recruiting process. The recruiter was like, it's a very structured job. You know what you're going to be doing. There's room for growth, and you're always going to have like a good balance where you're going to have the opportunity to go out to the field, do the Army stuff, like the stereotypical like land, nav, all of that great stuff. But you're also going to get to come into the office and challenge your brain as well as your body. And that to me was very appealing.
Awesome. So, as I mentioned, you know, we're here to talk about stewardship today. Is our topic out of the trusted to serve ethos, and I want to know, you know, Aaliyah, we'll start with you. How do you apply that principle of stewardship in your daily role as an HRA?
So for me, stewardship is the responsibility to people. And as an HRA, that's all you're constantly doing. You're constantly meeting a different group of people, very diverse. You're constantly being tasked with different things. And for me, to be a steward is to be entrusted with the information of all the people we have at our unit. And as we move into the new PSS with the entire brigade, and if I can't be trusted by these people and with their information, I can't do my job. They need to know that when you come to me with an issue, maybe they didn't get paid, that I'm going to solve your problem. I'm going to be there for you. I'm going to help you out. And that your information is not everybody's information to know. That is between myself, the member, and their chain of command. And that's how I recognize stewardship within my job.
And Chris, for yourself, you know, you've moved from, again, a pretty lengthy career at this point, from actually the same trade as Aaliyah started out here, into now the logistics area. How do you ensure that there are sufficient resources in place to meet the needs of deploying troops? Because as we mentioned, that you are responsible for these logistics, not only here in Canada, but for folks going on deployment abroad.
Just by good planning and coordinating with all of our formation, both up and down. So, for instance, when we send people in the theater for Op Savan, we needed to make sure that they had enough equipment. And if they don't have enough equipment, to ensure that they do, if we can't do it internally, then we lean on other portions of the formation. So if we sent 2 CMBG out the door, then we ask, and they don't have enough stuff, then we ask, CFB Kingston, can you supply some of that stuff that we're short? 31 CBG, can you supply some of the stuff that they're short? And if we don't have it within the 4th Canadian Division, then we go to the other divisions across Canada. Hey, we're sending some guys out the door. We need some extra comms gear, or we need some extra ammo, or we need whatever it happens to be that we're short. And that's a big part of my job, is coordinating all of that.
Now, kind of taking that to the next step, and you led me right into my next question, really is, you know, stewardship involves more than just materials and you know, sort of the hardware, if you will. It involves people. And a lot of, you know, what you were saying there, I think, Aaliyah. But Chris, as a leader, now a senior leader, lots of experience in the Army, how do you make sure that you develop your subordinates in order that they reach their full potential? And I guess sort of in the idea of being a steward of people, and not only just the material resources.
So for subordinates, need to make sure that we interview them and understand what their needs are, and not just career needs, but we really want to focus these days on family needs. Okay, what does your family need? Where do you want to be, so that we can make sure we properly plan around that. That's basically, I would say, the most critical thing right there is what can we do to ensure that your family life is good? Because we need to make sure that their base, their family, is solid to make sure that they can perform well for us, and that's a stewardship. That's a stewardship function right there.
And Leah, I would like to know from you then, how do you foster an ethical culture? Because you talked about sort of, the word that came to mind when you were talking about managing people's personal business, so to speak, their careers and whatnot. There's definitely an ethical context, and so in terms of stewarding and making sure that the ethical culture is maintained, how do you cultivate that within your role?
I would say a lot of it is discipline, and thankfully the CAF teaches you that and instills that in you, and your leaders teach you that and instill that in you. But you have to learn how to separate your values and your beliefs when dealing with other people. It doesn't matter if I share the same belief as someone, if I share the same values as them. I'm here to help you. That is my job first and foremost, and I will always put that in front of my wants and needs, because I chose to be here and I chose to do that for others.
Has there ever been a time where, maybe you could give an example without too much detail, but where you actually had that conflict within yourself, and how did you overcome that situation and put the needs of the member or the mission, so to speak, first?
I would say sometimes when dealing with higher ranking people, that's when that comes to play. For example, I could speak to another corporal more openly than I would speak to the CO or the RSM or a captain per se, but educating the member a lot of times will help ease that back and forth with them a bit, letting them know what you are capable of doing within your rank and within the CAF policy that is set into place. That has definitely helped me managing the ethical aspect of it. This is what I can do for you, and here's why. Here's a policy that allows me to do this, or this is why I can't do this, regardless of who's asking, and this is a policy why I can't do it. It's definitely helped me navigate that boundary a bit more.
And Chris, what about yourself? And obviously you've had a few years of different postings, different scenarios, deployments, and so on. How do you maintain that balance between sort of your own personal well-being, if you will, or maintaining your own personal values, and at the same time managing the mission and the things like we talked about here in terms of making sure that people have the things that they need and are taken care of, and all of that you sort of brought into perspective?
I'd say the big thing is service before self. You're always looking to complete the mission. In particular, in my job, I get calls on Saturday, I get calls on Sunday. When we had Op Savan happen, when we had the helicopter go down, I get a call on the weekend, and you put your family aside for that moment. You do what needs to be done, what's critical that has to be done right then and there. I'm not saying we're working the whole Saturday or Sunday like that, although we may have to, but you do what needs to be done right at that point in time. So you service before self. That's what it comes down to.
Any final thoughts, Aaliyah, on, again, just that broad concept of stewardship and maybe how your personal values come into play when it comes to being a good steward in the course of your daily job in the CAF?
I would say my value that there's a person behind every uniform really drives me in my job and drives me as a CAF member, that regardless of what somebody's got here, behind every uniform is a human being, and treat them as such and behave as such.
Chris?
For actual equipment and stuff like that, for me, a lot of it comes down to making sure, like for stewardship, making sure that like we're entrusted to take care of it properly and make sure that we're not abusing it. Make sure that we're ordering, say, if we have, I need 100 of these items. Maybe I should order 200 because we might need it someday. That's not good stewardship of the equipment and of the money that's spent to use that equipment. So to me, that's like a big part of that affects my job and affects me. Making sure that we take care of the equipment properly, order the equipment properly, how much is actually needed. So that's, I would say, a good summary of stewardship for me.
Well, 34 years now in the Canadian Armed Forces. As we kind of wind up here, what are the next steps for you? Where does your career, other than retirement at some point, not too soon we hope, but what are sort of the next steps? I know you're sort of in a new role in the past year. What are the next steps for Major Chris Launder?
I was actually hoping to continue on in the G4 logistics role, potentially in the operations role. I actually enjoy doing what I'm doing so much that I would be happy just to continue doing this for the next 3 to 5 years until my retirement. I just feel like I'm very relevant dealing with current situations, both at home and abroad. And to me, there's a job satisfaction there, and I don't mind going into work every day. I really don't.
And Aaliyah, you've got a ways to go before you catch up with Major Launder. But where do you see yourself? You mentioned growth opportunities and so on. What are some of the things that you look forward to doing in your career?
I look forward to teaching one day and getting my PLQ done so that I'm able to do that, and just like ushering in the new leaders for tomorrow. Like the military didn't start with me, and it definitely won't end with me. And it's like a passion and a calling I have to just teach the next generation, give them better than I had, give them all the tools that I have and then some more, make them better than I was and better than the CAF has been. And I feel like I need to do it. I don't know how to explain it. It's just like a drive in me to just like get the future going and make sure that they've got the head start that we didn't have.
Well, I thank both of you very much for, again, taking the time today and sharing your insights and stories with us. You know, as always, wish you both the very best in your future as you travel this road. Well, that's going to do it, folks, for our final episode in the Professional Expectations series. I want to thank all of our guests throughout this series who have participated with us, and as well want to thank the University of Guelph-Humber Media Studies Program, Department Head Kathy Elliott, and of course our fantastic crew, Kayla Martinez and Francis Salvador Malion, as well as Master Corporal Justin Roy from 4th Canadian Division Public Affairs Branch. And to all of you for watching. Don't forget to follow us on social media. Thank you very much.